welcome to the video. In this video I'm going to show you how to make the skirts that you've seen at the beginning of the video. So for here I have 6 yards of fabric. I'm making the top and the skirt out of this, but I don't think the skirt will take more than, even if it takes more than a yard, it will be just over a yard. So I'll say 1.5 yards is enough for whatever size you are making for. Alright, so now I have found the front of the fabric. That's an opening on the on the 6 yards that I have. So now the first thing we are going to do is you are going to divide your hip measurement by 4 inches, and it's going to give you a number. So for me, if I'm working with this 38 divided by 4 is 9.5. Now that's the hip circumference. 9.5 is the hip circumference that we're going to place here. You're going to add 1.5 inches for your sewing allowance on the side, or if you want you can keep just 1 inch. I'm just keeping 1.5 out of habit, so I'm keeping 1.5 inches of allowance for the side. And as you have seen, in front of the skirt there is a slit. Okay, there's a slit running in front of the skirt. So first of all, 9.5 plus 1.5 is going to give us 11 inches. All right, so 11 inches plus the 1 inch that we'll keep in front of here is going to give us 12 inches. So what I want you to do, I want you to make a fold that is 12 inches deep. So you see I folded a bit too much. Okay, here I have roughly 13. I'm going to just leave it at 13 inches because there's something we want to do. Now the next thing I want you to do is I want you to place your skirt length. Okay, so the skirt length that you intend to use, and then add 4 inches to it. So we know that this fold here would accommodate our hip plus all the allowances that we need. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to place the skirt length and see how much you have. So the skirt length that I have here is 28 inches. I'm going to do 28 inches plus 4, which is going to give us 32 inches. So I'm going to come here, make a mark at 32 inches. After I have done that, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to simply cut out this piece of my fabric here. Alright, so after I have done this, now the reason why I cut out a small pattern, you know why I took all those measurements and cut out this pattern, is because I want to know the exact dimensions that I'm working with, because I intend to iron on my ST before I start cutting. Now the reason why I like to do this when I'm sewing for a customer, so what you are seeing here, most times when I make videos on this channel, I'm making videos just for you guys to see, to teach you guys something. But this piece I'm working on here is actually for my clients. So this is how I go about it if I'm being paid for it. So I like to iron on my gum stay or my air stay, whatever I need to iron before I cut my pattern, because when you introduce heat to a fabric, most times they shrink. So I like the fabric shrinking before I cut out my patterns. So this is just the method I use to go about it. Alright, now when you are done with doing with ironing and you've seen that I've folded, the next thing I want you to do is I want you to just make very faint marks of where you have 1 inch, because as 1 inch I'm going to keep for creating that slit in front. Remember, we're going to have a slit in front of our skirt. So I want you to just mark where 1 inch is very faintly, and then I want you to fold it underneath and iron it so that it stays out of the way until whenever you're ready to deal with it. And then when you are done with that, the next first thing I want you to do is I want you to keep ½ inch away from the top. Let me straighten out my top a bit. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to keep ½ inch away from the top of the edge of the fabric. That's the top part here. This ½ inch that we are keeping is where we are going to, this is what's going to help us join our skirt to our band. So we're going to mark that ½ inch at the top there. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to place the waist to your hip. Now, usually if we're not fixing the band, I will place the waist to hip of around 8 inches. But because I'm fixing the band, I will place my waist to my hip distance at 7 inches. But the band that I'm going to fix is 1.5 inch tall, not 1 inch tall. You will see what I'm doing later on. But for this skirt that you've seen the way I made it, you're going to place your waist to your hip at 7 inches, not 8. Alright? So throw away 1 inch there and make a mark at 8. The same thing. Sorry, make a mark at 8 is the same thing. So you see, it's 7. Alright, make a mark at 8, and then the next thing I want you to do is I want you to mark the waist to the knee measurement. So the waist to the knee measurement is 20 inches. So I'm going to subtract 2 inches from there and come up. So the waist to the knee is 20 inches. I will come up to 18 inches. So whatever your waist to your knee is, you subtract 2 inches from there and place. Welcome to Nigeria. So as I was saying, you now mark your knee 2 inches higher than where it's supposed to be. So the waist to the knee is 20, you mark it at 18 inches. And then the next thing you are going to do is you are going to mark your skirt length. So the skirt length is 28, so you're going to make a mark at 28 inches. And at the bottom of the skirt length, I'm keeping 2 inches for my allowance for hemming. Okay, I'm going to rule all these lines across. Alright, and then next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to place all my measurements across. So over here, you're going to place the waist measurements. The waist measurements I'm working with is 32 inches. 32 inches divided by 4 is equals to 8. So I'm going to place 8 here. And then I'm going to come down to where the hip is supposed to be. Now the hip is 38. 38 divided by 4 is 9.5. Make a mark at 9.5 over here. And then you're going to come to the next line. So 2 inches above your hip. Your knee, sorry, you are going to subtract 2 inches from whatever you place here and place here. So at my hip, I place 9.5. 9.5 minus 2 inches is equals to 7.5. So I'm placing 7.5 here, and whatever you place here, you place at the end of the skirt. So placing 7.5 here as well, and then you can go ahead and connect all your lines together. So after you have done that, you are now going to have to place your allowance on the side. I'm going to place 1.5 everywhere from top all the way down. So after you have cut this part here, you are going to use this pattern now to trace what your lining is supposed to be. So you are going to take this and you are going to place it on your table. So this here is cotton lining. Alright, after you have made the fold, you just simply place your pattern on top of it and see if you folded enough. Next thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to cut it out, and I'm going to iron soft gum stay onto my lining. Alright, so after you have made sure that everything is okay, you're going to place your soft gum stay onto the table. All is well. Place your pattern onto it and iron. Alright, so you've seen what I've done. I ironed my my gum stay to my cotton lining, and then I now cut it out, place this one on top. I have unfolded that 1 inch we hid underneath. I've unfolded it so that you can cut the pattern exactly. You can cut the pattern of the lining exactly like you did on the fabric. So I'm going to cut it out, but the only difference between the front and the back is that I will shorten the lining by 2.5 inches at the bottom. That's the only difference between the front and the back. Alright, so after you have done that, you are basically done with the front. I'm now going to slash the front because it has a slit in front, so I'm now going to slash the front of the skirt. Alright, on both the fabric and on the lining to separate the both sides of the front. Alright, so after you've done the lining, I will now separate take away one side of the front. So before we cut our skirt, we're going to fold away this 1 inch here so that we have the true skirt pattern. Alright, so now just make a fold. Make a fold, place your pattern on top. Check and see that you have as much as 2 inches in front of it like I am doing. So by the time you do that, you know that okay, you have more than enough. You can now cut it out, okay? And then I would iron on stay onto the fabric just like what I did when I was cutting the front. Alright, so over here I've ironed on my stay, alright, just like I did to the front. I'm going to mark 2 inches in front of here. So I keep 2 inches for my zipper allowance. As a habit, whatever you're comfortable placing as your zipper allowance, you mark that from the edge of the fabric in, from the bottom all the way up. Next thing we are going to do is you are going to place this one here on top, and you are going to cut them to be the same. The only difference between the front and the back is that when you are keeping your allowance on this side here, remember we kept 1.5 all over the edge when we're placing here. At the top, everywhere else can be 1.5 from the hip down, but at the top you will have to add an extra 1 inch here. The reason why we're marking this part here with an extra 1 inch, the reason why we're marking that part there with an extra 1 inch is because I'm going to hold a dart in the center of the back, and when I do that I'm going to need 1 inch, because if you hold a half-inch dart, half inch will be consumed on the left and half inch will be consumed on the right. So that's why I'm placing an extra 1 inch here. Okay, yeah, but after you've done that, the only thing you're going to do is you're going to cut this out. But before you cut it out, another thing, you're going to come in front of here to where your zipper is supposed to be, and then you're going to cut out about 1 inch from the corner. So from the corner here, mark where you have 1 inch, and then you're going to connect here all the way to here. Now this is going to allow the back to sit flush at the waist, okay? So at the top part of the waist, that's here, you don't want this place here puffing. So that cuts, that taking out 1 inch from here will make the back of your skirt lay flat against the body. So that's why I'm taking away 1 inch from here, okay? And then the next thing we're going to do is you are going to come 7 inches after your hip line. Okay, 7 inches after your hip line, you are going to make a mark, and then you are also going to make a mark at 1 inch here, and then you are going to connect here to here, and then you are going to connect everything else straight down. So this skirt will not have a slit at the back. The slit will be in front instead. You see the shape that we have here? We it will help you create that curve you have around the bone. Alright, so now that you've done that, I need you to cut this out. And then I'm going to make a notch around this hip place, alright, to remind us that this is where the this is the zipper allowance part of it. But when I'm fixing my zipper allowance, even though I kept 1 inch, even though I have only 1 inch left here, I'm still going to fix my zipper consuming 2 inches here, and then I'm going to meet these 2 inches, and then I'll slowly taper out here. Instead of holding 2 inches, I might hold 1.5 just to free up that bottom half just a little bit, and I'm going to run all. You will see that on the sewing machine. So yeah, I'm going to use this pattern now to cut my lining. The same thing I did on the front when I was trying to cut my lining is what I'm going to do on the back. Okay, I'm going to go ahead, iron on my gum stay to my lining, place this pattern on top and cut, and then I would make the lining 2.5 inch shorter at the bottom. So here I have the pattern for the front. Alright, when you are sewing the front, remember the slit has the slit is in front of the skirt. So what I want you to do is, the slit itself at the end of the day will be 8 inches long, and remember we kept 2 inches at the bottom here to fold. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add that 2 inches to the 8 inch opening I want in front of my slit. So 2 inches plus 8 inches is equals to 10 inches, which is what I'm placing at the edge over here. I'm now going to make a mark here, and this is where I would stitch and stop. So from the top, I'm going to run from the top, and then when I get here, I'm going to stop, and I'll do the same thing to my lining. Alright, so let me do that. You can see that throughout I was stitching on that fold. So that's, remember, we folded an iron, the line that my iron left. Remember, I hope you noticed I was stitching there from top to bottom. I'm now going to get the lining. Alright, so you're going to place the front like I've done now. To make sure that your stitch stops at the exact place, you're going to take note of where it is. Alright, and you're going to make a mark there. Alright, and then I'm going to stitch my lining the same way. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to my ironing table. I'm going to spread and iron this on both the fabric and the lining, and I'm going to spread it and iron it flat like so on both the fabric and the lining, and I'll be back. Alright, so now I have ironed both the fabric and the lining flat. The next thing I want you to do, and whatever I do to this two, is what I will do on this other side here. So I want you to straighten it like this. Okay, so you open up that fold that we kept like so, and then I'm going to stitch this starting from here. I'm going to stitch half an inch, but I will stop 2 inches before I get to the end over here. Alright, then the next thing we are going to do is, you see the way I've opened it up now. Okay, you are going to pick up one side. So you see this side here where they are together. You are going to pick up this point here, pick up this other point here. You are going to take them, and you are going to place them to be the same, on the same level. You see that? You see what I just did there? And you are going to stitch from here all the way down. Once you do that, you would have turned your slits. Alright, alright, so I've ironed the front. This is what the front looks like. Alright, this is the inner part. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dart all sides of the back. So now I'm going to dart the back. What I simply did was to collapse the pattern and notch the middle of the top part of the skirt. That's the back part of the skirt. So I'm going to simply hold my dart. For the dart, I'm going to come down by 4.5 inches on both the fabric and on the lining, ½ inch at the top, and taper out to nothing. Watch and see what I'm doing. So as you can see, I have fixed my dart on both the fabric and the lining, and I've ironed it. So the next thing I'm going to do now is, you see this place that we notched at the hip line. I'm going to start from here, and I'm going to sew my zipper allowance. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold 2 inches from here. I will sew 2 inches all over where you can see the curve that I have over here. Alright, I'll hold 2 inches all over here. Once I get to the end of the curve, I'll reduce it to 1.5, and then I will run all the way down to the bottom of the back of the skirt. So watch and see what I'm doing. Alright, so after we have done this, the next thing is to fix our zipper. But before we fix our zipper, we have to install our band. Now, to create our band, what we're going to do is you're going to measure from the beginning of your waistline. So you can see I'm starting from where they have the zipper allowance all the way to the end. So here I have approximately 11 inches. So I will go to my machine and I will cut 11 inches by 2.5. I'm going to cut 4 pieces. I will bring them here for you to see. I'll cut a rectangle that is 11 inches long and is 2.5 inches wide. I will cut it 4 times. I would iron on S-stay to 2 and I'll be back. You'll see what I'm talking about. Alright, so you can see what I have here. This is 2.5 inches wide, alright, and it is 11 inches. It is 11 inches long, alright. Okay, so that's why I say you should cut 4 pieces, because an iron S-stay to 2. So you can see I have 4 pieces, but I've only ironed S-stay onto 2. The part that I ironed S-stay onto will go on the fabric. The part I have not ironed anything onto will be joined to the lining. Alright, so just simply join this at the waist. When you're coming, you will start from the edge, so that's from your hip curve, and when you are coming in, you are going to leave 2.5 inches on sewn. You start from here to the front, or better still, you can start from the zipper area, the zipper allowance area, stitch, but stop before you get to 2.5. Either way is fine. So after you have joined the waist, you are going to simply install the zipper. So like I said, I'm going to hold 2 inches everywhere around the zipper allowance. Even though I have taken away 1 inch away from the waist when we were cutting, I will still sew 2 inches so that the zip lays flat on the waist. Alright, so now the next thing you would do is you attach the waist. Alright, you attach the waist to the body. So you see this here, this is our zipper allowance. I've zipped down after stitching. You simply take, you see this part here, the lining. Remember, we sealed here is the waist, is the hip area we did not seal, but the zipper allowance area we sealed the band to the body completely. So I want you to stitch from here, alright, stitch across the waist. Alright, so I've fixed this side of the waistline. Like I said before, after you have fixed your zipper here, you bring your lining, you place it front facing front, and then you're going to stitch across the waistline. Alright, so you're going to stitch across the waistline and seal your zip shut. Alright, so stitch it 1/2 inch. And after you have done that to the waistline, I want you to join the fabric and the lining together at the zipper allowance. So you see this place that you stitched when you were installing the zip the first time. I want you to stitch from here all the way down to here, and also use your scissors to cut off the excess zipper that you have at the top. After you do that on both sides, this is what you would have. You would have a nice clean zipper at the back of your skirt. Alright, so this is the lining. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to head back to my ironing table. I have not yet spread and ironed the zipper allowance joining at the bottom, so I'm now going to do that on the fabric and on the lining, and then I'll be back. So after you have ironed both of them, you keep the back aside first for now, and then you bring the front in. So you're going to measure the waistline. We have to cut a band for the front as well. So as for the front, we are not going to attach the band separately, even though we have a cut in the center of the front. We're going to treat our band as one piece. So we're going to measure across the waist of the front. So over here I have 19 inches. So I'm going to go back to my ironing table and I'm going to cut 19 inches by 2.5. I'm going to cut 2 pieces of it, 19 inches by 2.5, and I'll be back. Alright, so here I have 2 pieces of 2.5 by 19 inches. So I'm going to join them front side facing front side, 1/2 inch at the top, from one side all the way down, and then I will top stitch. Watch and see. Alright, so the side with the S stay, I didn't top stitch on it. The top stitch, all the excess is facing where the lining is. That's the part of the band that will be joined to the lining. But after you have done that, the next thing you're going to do is you're going to get the front and you're going to join this part here. That's the part with the S stay to the skirt part, and then you're going to join this other side here to the lining. Half an inch is what you will join. Remember to keep a space of 2 inches away from the side before you start stitching. Alright. Alright, so now we have attached the band to the body of the front. So you can see here is clean, you can see the back is clean. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it inside out. See the way I'm holding it? I hold it here at the middle, I turn it inside out, and then we'll come to this point here where we had the joining. You see this part here where we joined the two parts for our sleeve. Alright, we're going to turn it like so, and then we're going to need to join them together so that that bottom part there stays straight. So you see this, you're going to just join a little. So you can come like maybe 2 inches after the midpoint here and start stitching, and then stop after 2 inches. You stop 2 inches after you get to the joining here. So just watch and see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to head back to my ironing table. I'm going to press and iron this. After this, we are close to the end. You just simply to join the front and the back that we are doing next. But yeah, go and iron this so that everything lays perfectly flat, and then we'll join the front and the back. Alright, so now the next thing is to join the front to the back on the side. Alright, so just simply throw them together, front facing front. Now whatever I do to this side is the same thing I'll do to this other side of the waist. Alright, so I'm going to join them together here on the side, consuming 1.5 inch from here all the way down everywhere, because 1.5 inches is what I kept. So I'll join the line fabric and then I'll join the lining of one side now. So watch and see what I'm doing. So after you have joined the body together, you've joined the side together, and it's time to join the lining. You simply just lay everything flat like I have. You twist them front facing front, and then you also have to hold 1.5 on the lining from the waist all the way down to the hem. Alright. So with that, you can see I've joined the lining is clean, the fabric is clean. The next thing we're going to do on this side here is we're going to come over to the band, and we're going to join the band together, consuming 1.5 inches as well. So you see this here, we're going to open it up like this, open this guy up like this. You simply want to just do clean side facing clean side, and the side that has the S stay touching the side that has the S stay, and you're going to stitch across here, consuming 1.5. After that, you go and iron the seam flat. Now by the time you make the stitch at the top of the band, what you have is a well finished top, well finished bottom. And if I turn it inside out, so you put your hand at that waistline, okay, where you have that hole so that you don't miss it. You pass your hand under, remember we still have a big hole underneath, and then you hold it. All right, you grab it, turn it inside out so you can see it. So you can see this is the stitch we didn't complete. Remember this stitch we didn't complete. Okay, when I say stop before you get to the edge of the band, you will now run it and connect it to here. All right, do the same thing on the lining, and with that you would have joined the band on this side to the body completely and neatly. Alright, the next thing you are going to do after you have made that stitch is you are going to go back to the middle of your skirt. So you see here, this joining we have here is the middle of the skirt where we created that slit. It's right next to the joining that we have over here. And what you are going to do is this. Remember, you stitched like 2 inches away from the center of this part and stop somewhere here. I want you to now continue that stitch as deep as far as you can go. Okay, do you know what? Just stitch it from here and stop at this dart that you have here. That's the back dart. All right, once you do that, you would have locked the band in one place. That you have neatly attached the band on both the fabric and the lining. And by the time you make that stitch, that last stitch I just made, you will see that the lining and the fabric are locked together there and your band is standing up separately. Okay, you can see that that's because of the most recent stitch we just made, joining the lining and the fabric together at the point where the band meets. All right, so I'm going to go iron this and then I'll do the same thing to the other side. And if you want to do the same thing to the other side, you are almost done. Okay, so I have joined both sides and all the points match. Everything inside is extremely neat. All right, everything is really clean. The last thing is to finish off the hem. So what we're going to do is you're going to simply turn the whole thing inside out like I just did. So if it was laying flat, you just turn the whole thing inside out, and then you start stitching from where you stopped all the way across. Make sure that when you get to your side joinings, make sure to lay everything flat like this on both the fabric and the lining before you stitch across it. So that's what I'm doing now, and after you do this, you are done. If you've watched this far, thank you so much for watching. Oh, you are not done, and you need to do something else. I'm coming. Let's do it. So just keep stitching until you can no longer stitch it. You know, it will get to a point where you are close to the end, but you can no longer go because the whole thing is really tight. So just stitch until it becomes unbearably difficult for you to keep going. By the time I've stitched around and I've gotten to the end here, it's now too difficult to sew. I'm just going to fold the whole thing. Make sure to lay here flat. I'm going to just fold the whole thing, ½ inch here, ½ inch here, and I'm going to stitch them together and seal it shut permanently. That's what I'm doing now. And once you seal it like I've sealed it, you are done. Iron the whole thing, and if you need to go inside for whatever reason, you can simply always loosen this place, open that door and go inside and do whatever you have to do. So like I've said, if you followed all the steps, you end up with a very clean skirt. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video. Do have a lovely day. Bye bye.